Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am back, and I've been away for a while, and I do apologize. I just been overworked. I had a lot of crap going on throughout the week. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So sometimes I'm just not able to. Just a combination of a lot of shit that's going on. I'm just not able to stream as often as I like to, but whenever I get a chance, I try to. So I'm streaming tonight, right now, even though I am kind of limited on time. But I think that I need to do this stream here because some things are a given. You know, it's more like water is wet. Some things are obvious, and I am going to go and state what is obvious, and that is what I kind of outline as kind of like my little personal 6-point path toward peace between the people in Gaza and in Israel. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we don't want any war at all. And clearly Israel's the aggressor. There's no question about it. Israel is the aggressor. They're really at fault in a lot of ways over this shit. But I'm going to go with my point by point, with my explanation on everything. So let's go with I'll say let's go with the let me go with the very first point. Okay, hold on a second here. Yeah, all right. Let me see what this is here. Yes, we'll go with this first point here. And that is Gaza, the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is occupied territory. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is occupied territory, and it is an open air prison. It's suffering from a blockade, an inhumane blockade, with infrastructure pretty much almost totally denied to them. These people can't leave through Israel. They can't leave through the border into Egypt. They can't leave through the Mediterranean Sea. They're just not allowed to leave at all. They're trapped in there. And, you know, it's not a good situation. It's an open air prison. It's inhumane. It's wrong what's being done to these people. And for some reason, there are people out there that act like you're unreasonable. You're a terrible person. You should go and say these things. I don't care. I don't care what evangelical Christians think. I don't care what the neocons of both parties think. I don't care what the right-wing elements within Israel think. Gaza is occupied territory, and the occupation must end. I mean, it must end. There is no doubt about it. That needs to be recognized. So I want to go and bring out that second point, because once we establish that first point, that would help with the situation here, you know. So we're going to go with the second point, and that second point basically is that that, you know, as far as Hamas, the group Hamas, I have no love for them. But I'm going to tell you something about Hamas. They were created by the Mossad. Even those that are out there on the left that were a little bit misinformed on this issue and they're rooting for Hamas, you realize you're going to be rooting for an organization that was created by the Israeli Mossad. Now, why would the Mossad? Why would the Mossad go and create them? Now, it wasn't that they created the Mossad. I mean, the Hamas per se. Hamas was existing. They were just a fundamentalist little organization. But in the 1970s and the 80s, the Mossad funneled money, nurtured, groomed Hamas. And Hamas was being fundamentalist. It was there to divide and conquer, to undermine the PLO, which was secular. At the time, the Palestine Liberation Organization was orbiting around the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It had a Soviet influence. And the United States and a lot of the countries in the West were like, oh, no, can't have that. That's pretty much was at the crux of that. And because of that, it was like that was considered unacceptable. So, just like what the 9/11 report talked about blowback, Hamas is Israel's blowback because it is of their creation. It's right wing. And it was created by the right wing elements within Israel. So, and nobody's being done any favors in the Gaza Strip or in Israel or anywhere else with Hamas being what they are. I say this unequivocally that I denounce Hamas, but I also denounce the Israeli government. I denounce them both. They're both terrorist organizations at this point, both of them, as far as I'm concerned. I say this without apology. So once we realize that, that's the second point we have to realize. And, it's funny that these words that I'm saying would make me a troublemaker for saying this. But, water is wet and, alternative information, accurate information is considered, terrible, and all that. Another thing, as I denounce Hamas, I also want to unequivocally denounce Benjamin Netanyahu. I want to denounce them on not just the Gaza Strip incident that happened on October 7th. And yes, without trying to go into details, because I know how the algorithms work and they will love to go and take my words out of context. I do think that, what was said about by conspiracy theorists regarding 9/11 might actually possibly be true in Israel. I mean, if you consider the lives that were found expendable down in southern Israel, the people of the kibbutz that were attacked. That's not Netanyahu's constituency, by the way. If you live in the kibbutz, you support a kibbutz in Israel, you more than likely hate Benjamin Netanyahu. You're probably more than likely to vote Labor, Meretz, which I will talk about in a moment, or Hadash or something like that. Hadash being the Communist Party in Israel or something. That's what you're more likely to, that's going to be more your ideological affiliation. So you're going to look at Benjamin Netanyahu, you're going to be like, no, he's an SOB. So these people were expendable as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just putting two and two together right now about this. Gave it some serious thought. Let me tell you about him prior to being prime minister. He's been prime minister. This is the third time he was prime minister. He was prime minister first time in the 1990s. Then he became prime minister again a decade ago. And like the Energizer Bunny, he keeps going and coming back. As the foreign minister under the Sharon government in the event with the aftermath of 9/11, Ariel Sharon was his foreign minister. Not that they need any encouraging, but George W. Bush and Tony Blair went into Iraq. Benjamin Netanyahu was one of the people cheerleading and encouraging encouraging George W. Bush and Tony Blair to go into Iraq. As I said, those two motherfuckers didn't need any convincing, but suffice to say, that was an added component. So I do think that Tony Blair is a war criminal. I definitely think George W. Bush is a war criminal, but Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal too. I mean, we had many war criminals, and people be like, "Oh, you're just saying George W. Bush in America, Benjamin Netanyahu. You just have an anti-conservative bias." Tony Blair belonged to the Labor Party. Okay, so I'm not being biased. Hillary Clinton voted for that goddamn war in 2002. So did Joe Biden. There's a lot of war criminals walking around free in the United States, and they're in both parties. So, Benjamin Netanyahu is definitely a large part of the problem, a very large part of the problem. So that is point number 3. I want to say that point number 4, we're going to go into electoral politics for a moment. And my memory is a little bit off, but I am going to go with the details. I'm not going to go into the history of what made Meretz, but I do know about Meretz. Meretz is a political party in Israel. It's a left-wing party in Israel. Socialist Party, Labor Party, Social Democratic Party, whatever you want to call it. Left of center, obviously. Pro-Palestinian, pro-peace, anti-war. Obviously, they're against what's going on over there. So, as I said, I denounce what Hamas is doing. I denounce what Israel is doing. And I support the good people on all sides. The Palestinian people are needlessly suffering because of the right-wing assholes that are involved on all sides in this conflict. But, it's easy, and it's easy to denounce Israel, and I do denounce what they're doing on the strongest of terms. I just wanted to let everyone know that there are people in Israel. There is an Israeli left, a fading away of the Israeli left, but there is still an Israeli left out there that do not approve of what is going on, and it can be found in parties such as Meretz. Meretz is probably the best electoral expression of this in Israel right now. Well, there is a Labor Party, but they're a little more hawkish, but they're ideologically similar to Meretz, except they're a little more pro-military, which I can't go with that. Or you can go with, if Meretz is too milquetoast, there is Hadash, which is a communist party in Israel. I know that the Green Party is a thing in Israel. I assume that they're one of the good guys too. So, but I just wanted to let you know that Meretz is one of the good guys there. So that's point number 4. I believe it went to point number 4. So let's go with the next point here. And and the next point I would like to make, and again, it's more like one of these water is wet moments. But we're gonna want the people on all sides at the end of the day to be at peace. I mean, isn't this what we want? Don't we want to stop to the madness? Don't we want to stop to World War III? It seems like everybody's lost their fucking minds, and they just beating the drums to our war. I mean, when I found out yesterday about Yemen declaring war, I'm like, aren't their country in rubble from what's been going on with them in Saudi Arabia? I mean, didn't they have enough of that going on in their lives? Saudi Arabia, a country that's, been propped up by the United States for the longest time, selling arms to them. And while the United States wants to vilify Iran continuously, which causes next to no terrorism when you compare them to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is at the source of all terrorism against the West, but the United States have been coddling them for the longest time. Before Tulsi Gabbard turned into a neocon lately, I remember 4 short years ago, she was referring to Donald Trump as Saudi Arabia's bitch. I miss that Tulsi. I don't know what the fuck happened to her. So that's what happened to her. But that's another post for another time. But here's the thing right here. What needs to happen? And what at the end of the day, this is the most important point. We need a ceasefire now. We don't need to delay a ceasefire. Any life that's continued to be lost in any area is one life too many. We do not need to lose any more lives in this conflict. And that's what it comes down to. So, the thing about it is, shame on the people of both parties for sitting there and being complicit and too scared to stand up to Benjamin Netanyahu, who's one of the biggest, probably one of the most horrible leaders in the Western world today. A man that not too long ago attempted to make a power grab. When I hear people like Nikki Haley and people like that talking about Israel's the most democratic country, talking about how they're the most democratic country in the Middle East. How much democracy can exist when you have a prime minister who made a power grab to try to strip away the Supreme Court of Israel? Because if that Supreme Court would have been stripped away, he would have had nearly absolute power. That's what he wanted. He wanted absolute power. He wanted to make himself a dictator. And there are too many right-wing people who sit there. I'm not the most patriotic person in the world, but I remember when Barack Obama was president, how right-wingers slobbered on Netanyahu's cock while they went around and saying Barack Obama was a terrible person or whatever. Well, Barack Obama might have been, but not for their reasons. Barack Obama was too right-wing. That's the problem with Barack Obama. It's too much like, it was closer to the right-wing critics saying he was any progressive that I would know of. And the one thing he did right was the Iran peace treaty. And what did Donald Trump do? He ripped that treaty up and took the U.S. out of that treaty, where Iran could have been acclimated to the West. It was working. And you know why? To go and pander to the Bush-Cheney wing of the party, to the John Boltons of the Republican Party, to pander to the John Hagees of the Republican Party, the evangelicals. And while I would never vote for anybody in the two-party system, the thing about it is, the one thing that makes Republicans worse than the Democrats when it comes to foreign policy is their fundamentalism. What makes Zionism toxic, it's not Judaism. What makes Zionism toxic is the evangelicals who control the foreign policy aspect of the Republican Party. That's why I never believed the Republicans when they said they're now anti-war. I knew that something like this happened, that they would go back to their Bush-Cheney bullshit again. And they did. Last couple of weeks, we've seen them. They were accidentally correct on the Ukraine. Some of them, anyway. Some of them were like the Democrats, favoring the Ukraine, funding Ukraine. It depends who they were. So anyway, that's kind of my basic 6 points to peace. That I say. I'm not claiming that it's perfect. I'm not claiming it's written in stone or profound because Willie Bragg says it is. It's just my take on the matters. And anyway, and I hope that everybody appreciate my words toward what I have to say and all of that. So let's go and talk here on the chat line real fast. I got to get to work in a short while. Al Tyrell, it's been a while since I've seen you. How are you doing, my friend? We got Dr. Case, how are you doing today? Good evening, and I'm sorry to butcher this name here. X Strife Zero. Good evening. Okay, I guess that's correct. Catherine Ann McCloskey, how are you? Ross, how are you doing today? I may be giving you a phone call in a little while. Warren, how are you doing today? I'm glad you're here. Can't wait to see Secret Show on Saturday. When there's no secret show on a Saturday, I'm really bummed. Seriously, I am. Let's see here. Great, and thank you. That means a lot to me. Let's see here. The West's goal is to have a Jewish ethnic state with little bloodshed as possible. It can't happen if it's surrounded by Muslim ethnic states. Well, here's the thing about that. I've always said, well, I think that maybe after World War II, that the U.S., the UK, the Soviets, and the French should have declared East Prussia, which is between what was the Soviet Union, and between what was Germany, the northern part, what is now the northern part of Poland, maybe Kaliningrad, which is part of Russia. If that could have been carved out and made a Jewish homeland, and it might have been a Soviet satellite state, could have been. It wouldn't matter. Either way, it would have been better to have it, whether it would have been a social democracy aligned with the West or a Soviet satellite state, it would have been better for that state to exist over there than to put it in the middle of Palestine in the Middle East. I think that would have worked out a hell of a lot better. And it would have been, the perfect reparations for what Jewish people went through in Germany. So that's kind of my take there. I don't believe that there is a tangible solution that includes a Jewish homeland in the Levant. I don't know what the solution is. I know that I don't want people needlessly dying on any side. And I'm doing okay. Let's see. Thank you. Yeah. All right. I agree 100%. If you're on Prussia, take Willie. Yeah, Prussia would have been. I know. I noticed all. What's the term? Academic at this point. Considering that we're talking about 75 years ago. Almost 78 years ago that World War II ended. But it could have been done. I think it could. I think it would have worked out better to have it, there. And it would have been just another European country today. I don't think it'd be bothering anybody. That's just my take. So, anyway, let's see. Announcements real quick. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jimi Sunderland and myself will be co-hosting. Another episode of Braglands. We hope you come and join us. And and on Saturday, there's the Secret Show with Jimmy and Warren at midnight on Sunday morning at midnight. Saturday night, I don't know how to say that, but we'll say 12 a.m. 12 a.m. Sunday morning, just after Saturday, would be the Secret Show, and I should be doing my live stream at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. As I said, I've just been very, very drained and tired lately, so that's what's been going on. So, anyway, folks, I am going to get out of here. I'm trying to think of anything else going on. I don't know. So, y'all have a great day, and I will talk to y'all soon. Peace.